The film opens showing Madison Square Garden, New York City, where a boxer named Billy Hope is preparing for his 43rd match against a boxer named Darius Jones. It's known that Billy is a southpaw boxer, also known as left-handed, who has never been defeated. After wrapping his hands, all the crew leave the room to let Billy meet his wife named Maureen. Apparently, they both grew up as orphans in Hell's Kitchen before meeting each other and getting married. Shortly after, the fight between Billy and Jones begins. In the 10th round, Billy appears to be struggling due to hard punches from Jones. Despite losing a lot of blood, he still manages to stand strong against Jones and use a brutal fighting style, eventually manages to defeat Jones by knockout. His victory earns Billy the junior middleweight title in the WBA and establishes him as one of the undefeated boxers. However, despite winning, Billy suffers severe injuries to his eye and mouth, continuously bleeding, which worries Maureen. After the match, Billy and Maureen attend a press conference. At that moment, a young boxer named Miguel Escobar, or known as Magic, comes asking Billy to fight him in the ring. To provoke Billy into responding, Miguel deliberately makes him angry by claiming that Billy has never been hit by a real man. Consequently, after the conference, Billy angrily confronts his manager named Jordan and asks him to arrange a fight against Miguel. However, Jordan refuses because Billy needs to rest for a few more months. Not long after, Billy and Maureen returning home to their luxurious mansion, where they have many employees, including Gloria, who serves as their daughter's caregiver. After that, Billy goes to meet his daughter named Layla, who wishes to watch her father fight. However, Billy forbids her, fearing that she might suffer psychological disturbances from seeing her father badly beaten. The next day, after waking up, Billy gives luxury watches as gifts to his 3 assistants as a token of appreciation for accompanying him. He then meets Maureen, who is chatting with Jordan. At that moment, his visit turns out to be to inform Billy about a lucrative offer where Billy would fight against a top-class boxer. However, Billy refuses unless Jordan agrees to arrange a meeting with Miguel first. Hearing this, Jordan immediately objects and pressures Billy to accept his offer. In the evening, Billy and Maureen attend a fundraising party for an orphanage. There, Billy gives a speech about his upbringing as an orphan who became successful. However, he also admits that all of this is thanks to Jordan, Layla, Maureen, and also the other children. At the same time, Miguel is also present at the event, still trying to find a way to challenge Billy. After the party ended, Miguel taunted Billy again as he was leaving with Maureen, by saying things that angered him. Despite Maureen urging him to ignore it, Billy couldn't and immediately got into a brawl with Miguel. At that moment, one of Billy's assistants named Hector then pulled out a pistol, but at the same time, a gunshot rang out before he could pull the trigger. The gunshot sound made Billy stop, and he was shocked to see Maureen had been shot. At the same time, Miguel found out that it was actually his friend who had fired the shot. He took the pistol and quickly hid it before fleeing the scene. Billy then tried to calm Maureen and asked her to hold on, but she lost a lot of blood and eventually died. After the incident, Billy, deeply affected, was interrogated by a detective who informed him that his assistant, Hector, had a pistol. Strangely, the bullets were intact and none had been fired. After that, Billy observed his wife's funeral and continued to dwell on his last moments with her. Maureen's departure left Billy deeply depressed. He even turned to drugs until morning and held onto a pistol as a symbol of his frustration because the shooter had not been identified yet. One night, Billy determined to find Miguel and Hector, but his friend named John tried to stop him as it could ruin his career. However, Billy paid no attention and went to Hector's apartment. Upon arriving, Billy didn't find Hector but instead encountered his wife named Maria. At that moment, Billy pointed his gun at Maria while demanding to know Hector's whereabouts. But, upon seeing Maria's children appeared to be starving, he decided to leave her. The next day, Billy met with his accountant named Krish and also Jordan. Their visit was to inform him that he had lost a lot of money and advise him to sell his house. Feeling pity with Billy, Jordan tried to help him by arranging a fight against a young boxer named Galil Turai. Initially, Billy refused, but after considering that his daughter still needed financial support, he agreed to fight. Sometime later, during the fight, Billy was already severely injured. For the first time in his career, he felt overwhelmed facing his opponent, especially now that he was in turmoil after Maureen had left. To make matters worse, in a fit of rage, Billy brutally punched the referee in the face, breaking the referee's nose. This resulted in Billy being suspended from all boxing matches. Afterward, Jordan summoned Billy to his office to inform him of the consequences of his actions in hitting the referee. Not only was Billy suspended, but he was also fined hundreds of thousands of dollars. After that, all of Billy's accounts would be frozen. Jordan then suggested that Billy sell his house, or else it would be seized. Confused and distressed, Billy asked Jordan for another fight, but he refused because Billy was suspended. Not only that, his coach named Eli also refused to train Billy anymore. Initially, Billy accepted all the risks he faced, but when Jordan revealed that he would become Miguel's manager and Eli would become his coach, Billy became immediately furious and deeply disappointed. Upon returning from Jordan's place, Billy resumed abusing drugs while continuing to search for Hector. When Billy arrived in front of his house, he frustratingly crashed his car into a tree, causing Layla to wake up. As the result, she came downstairs and found Billy lying on the floor helpless. Worried with her father, Layla called 911 immediately. Shortly after, Billy woke up in the hospital and was told that Layla was now in child services. A few days later, Billy went to court where he was sentenced for his recent reckless behavior. The punishment was that he couldn't care for Layla for 2 months until he completely stopped using drugs and exhibited normal behavior. Meanwhile, Layla would be placed in Child Protective Services. After the trial, Billy tried to hug Layla, but the guards restrained him, and they parted ways. Billy then returned home to find his house and all its contents seized. At the same time, with no money left, John drove him to Will's gym where Billy would train boxing again. Upon arriving there, Billy met the gym owner and former world boxer named Tick Willis, who was blind in one eye due to his last fight. At that moment, Billy expressed his desire to make a comeback and needed a coach. However, Tick refused because he didn't train professional boxers like Billy. And because one of the conditions to meet Layla was having a job, Billy asked Tick for employment. However, Billy immediately declined after learning that Tick offered him a job as a toilet cleaner. Billy then decided to rent a small apartment as a place to rest. The next day, Billy went to the Child Services building to meet a social worker named Angela Rivera, where Billy admitted he was still a mess but wanted to see Layla. Out of pity, Angela gave Billy time to meet with his daughter. But when Billy met Layla, she for some reason looked upset and immediately said that her father was a troublemaker. Hearing that, Billy truly felt guilty and regretted his decision to fight Miguel at that time, as Maureen might have been killed. After meeting Layla, Billy returned to the gym and finally accepted a job from Tick. On his first day of work, Billy befriended one of Tick's protégés named Hoppy, who was also a budding boxer. At that moment, he learned that Hoppy had a problem, where his father often abused his mother. In addition to working at the gym, Billy also often visited child services to meet Layla. But unfortunately, Layla was not yet willing to see him. One night, Billy found Tick drinking at a bar, where Billy found out that Tick also had a dark past, but not as bad as him. Billy then confided about his weakness, that he couldn't cope with life after his wife left. So the reason Billy always won fights was because of Maureen being in those fights. Hearing this, Tick advised Billy that he had to rise again for Layla's future. Days passed, and Tick began to see that Billy had made some progress in his behavior. So, Tick decided to become his coach. Since Billy already had boxing knowledge, Tick only trained him on a few tricks that he had never used in fights, such as head movement boxing. After a few days of practicing head movement boxing, Tick tested Billy by sparring with one of his students. However, Billy wasn't allowed to punch and could only use the head movements he had taught him. One day, Billy was invited to the child services to help Layla with her school assignment. In the process, she remained angry at Billy for not doing anything for her, as she was no longer comfortable staying there. After 2 months, Billy attended a hearing to regain custody of Layla. However, the judge still saw that Billy wasn't capable yet and decided to extend it for another 30 days. The next day, Tick and Billy were visited by a promoter who offered Billy a charity fight for the orphanage. Upon hearing this, Billy accepted the offer immediately because this fight didn't require permission. After the promoter left, Billy noticed Hoppy looking downcast. Tick then revealed that Hoppy's father had resumed beating his mother due to gambling addiction. The next day, Billy met Layla and told her that he would be boxing again in the afternoon. This news delighted Layla, who wanted to watch her father fight, but he forbade her, which ultimately disappointed Layla. In the afternoon, Billy began to fight against a retired boxer, watched by many including Jordan. In the match, Billy managed to defeat his opponent thanks to Tick's guidance. After the match, Jordan, who now managed Miguel, approached Billy. At that moment, he offered Billy a fight against Miguel for the WBC title, but Jordan only gave him 6 weeks to train. Although 6 weeks was very little time for preparation, Billy still accepted because he wanted to defeat Miguel and reclaim his career. After Jordan left, Billy wanted Tick to train him, but unfortunately, he refused for some reason. That night, as Billy was cleaning the gym, he found Tick crying while hitting the punching bag. It turned out that Tick had received news that Hoppy was killed by his father while trying to protect his mother. This deeply affected them both, feeling they were too late to take action, as Tick had heard that Hoppy wanted to become a champion boxer. Eventually, Tick agreed to train Billy for the WBC title fight. The next day, the judge finally granted Billy custody to take Layla to his new apartment after being bribed by Jordan. Billy then took Layla to his apartment, where he finally allowed her to watch the fight. After that, they visited Maureen's grave to reminisce about their time together with her. The following day, Billy began intensive training under Tick's guidance. Despite the short time, he showed no signs of being late and even became more brutal. Sometime later, the night of the fight arrived, where thousands of people crowded to witness Billy's comeback, while Layla watched from the TV in the locker room. At the same time, Tick and Billy's other crew stood near the ring to help guide him during the first round. In the first round, Miguel managed to injure Billy's eye, causing his vision to blur. In the following rounds, Miguel deliberately targeted Billy's eye, causing him to bleed more. Despite being injured, Billy didn't give up and managed to injure Miguel in the next round. When they reached the 11th round, Miguel intentionally provoked Billy's emotions by bringing up Maureen's death. Before he could become enraged, thankfully Tick asked him not to be influenced by Miguel, and they then reached the 12th round, which was the final round. In the last round, Miguel's points were ahead, but he made a mistake by hitting below Billy's belt, resulting in his points being deducted. After that, they resumed fighting to conclude the match. Just before the minute ended, Billy delivered a left uppercut to Miguel's face, immediately knocking him down. Miguel then rose again, but right as the round ended. Shortly after, the two boxers stood before the judges who began to score each boxer. After tallying up the scores, Billy was finally announced as the new champion. This made Tick, Layla, and Billy's fans ecstatic because their champion had returned. In the locker room, Billy asked Tick to place his WBC belt in his gym as motivation for his students. After that, Layla approached Billy, where he said that Maureen would be proud of Layla, and she expressed her pride in having a father like Billy. The film ends. Moral lesson from the story: don't pick a fight with someone just because they say you're undefeated, because you might end up having to clean toilets to win your daughter back. Also, remember that even when you're down, an uppercut can change everything both in the ring and in life.